The NBA playoffs are here. Michael Bolton, he is super pumped.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today, the NBA playoffs, they're ready to go tomorrow or today if you listen to this, depending on the day. So we're going to look at the first four games in these first round series. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on those series as well. And then that's how we're going to be rolling for the next few weeks as the NBA playoffs keep going. So let's talk about the first one of those games that is coming up. And the first series we're going to talk about here is the Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets. Both of these teams, they're not at full health, which I'm sure they're not too happy about, because we still don't have, for Denver, Gary Harris. We still don't have Fart and Will Barton. Both of these guys remain out. Whereas for Utah, of course, there's no Bojan Bogdanovic, but now Mike Conley has left the bubble for a birth of his child, and he's going to miss probably the first two games at a minimum of this series. That's going to make this challenge for the Jazz even harder. I think that this series in general is going to go Denver's way, but without Conley, I really don't see a way for Utah to keep this one very close. So my prediction, despite Harris and Barton not being there, is that Denver's going to get this one in 5. Nikola Jokic is the best player on both teams. We've seen Michael Porter Jr. break out. We have seen this Denver team, Jamal Murray, the headmaster, Echo Homo. He's been putting up some good numbers. And maybe it does go to 6, but I think that loss of Conley, he's really going to have an impact on this Jazz team, who's without, again, Conley now and Bojan Bogdanovic. So let's have a look from a DFS perspective. We'll start with DraftKings. The Nuggets are 4.5-point favorites here. For your point guard spot, it's got to be Jordan Clarkson. 3,800 for Clarko. We know he's hit or miss, but I reckon they'll probably start him alongside Donovan Mitchell, unless the other option is Emmanuel Mudiay. So the option you want is Jordan Clarkson. They also have Justin Wright Foreman out of this one, who's been playing some backup point guard minutes. So I think we're going to look at Clarkson at 38 is a pretty strong option. Mudiay at minimum salary is in play as well, because he gets 21, 22 minutes, 22, 23 fantasy points. That's pretty good value. Both of those guys need to step up. The Blue Arrow himself, 6,500 for Jamal Murray. I wouldn't be super keen on it. I think he's more of a GPP type of a guy, while Monty Morris at 36, probably just not enough playing time. And the Donovan Mitchell at 8,000.
He's good.
A lot is going to have to be on his plate. Whether the efficiency moves in that direction or not remains to be seen. But I do think that Mitchell at 8,000 is at least in play here. PJ Dozier probably not. For the shooting guards, you've got Jinglen Jones at 5,300. I like Jinglen's ability here to get some assists with the absence of Conley. That should help his value out to a decent enough degree. So I like Ingles there at that price. Torrey Craig at 3,500. He's not an accumulator of points. While Mia One probably does get into the rotation, but not enough to impact us. Royce O'Neal's at 3,500. Started off the bubble with some big games, but did tail off. I don't feel super comfortable with him. While Porter at 7,100. Michael Porter Jr., again, he started off really good in the bubble. It did drop off quite a bit. Let's not get that mixed up, because he wasn't excellent the entire time. In fact, his last 3 games only yielded 31 points, which is still really good, but it's not $7,100 worth of goodness. Still no Barton, still no Harris, but the return of Murray did hamper Porter, so I think we have to tread a little bit lightly there. For your big blokes, you're looking at Big Chungus, Nikola Jokic at 8,700. That seems stupidly low. His last 3 games against Utah have yielded 65 DraftKings points. 8,700 is too low. Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert.
He's at 7,700. I really like the cash floor value, 38, 39 points. Maybe he gets to 42. I'm not sure how much total upside he's got from there, but it is still strong, although I prefer the Jokic play. And then Plumlee and Bradley also centers who I don't think we care about. Paul Millsap's at 5,000. Jeremy Grant's at 46. I'd rather take Grant than Millsap, but I'm not really enthused about either of those guys. If we have a look at it over on FanDuel, it's a similar sort of story. Clarkson and Jokic and Ingles look pretty good. I think Millsap at 43 on FanDuel looks super interesting over there, and Mitchell at 7,300 and Michael Porter at 68 have a lot more value over there than they do on DraftKings. So that's a look at that first game. Up for us to take a squeeze at the first game of the playoffs. Super exciting to have the NBA playoffs back in our lives. And if you are going to be glued to the couch, whether you're quarantining, lockdowning, or just watching the NBA playoffs, hey, you're going to want stuff delivered. And DoorDash is the people that you want doing the delivery. You want Chinese food, you want pizza, whatever it is that you want, there's something for everyone on DoorDash. DoorDash is the app that brings you the food that you're craving right now, right to your door. Ordering is easy. Open the DoorDash app, choose what you want to eat, and your food will be left safely outside your door with a new contactless delivery drop-off setting. With over 300,000 partners in the US, Puerto Rico, Canada, and yes, Australia, you can support your local go-tos or choose from your favorite national restaurants like Chipotle, Wendy's, and the Cheesecake Factory. If only I could get Chipotle delivered here, I'd be pretty happy. Many of your favorite local restaurants are still open for delivery. Just open the DoorDash app, select your favorite local restaurant, and your food will be left at your door. DoorDash deliveries are now contactless to keep communities we operate in safe. And right now, our listeners get $5 off and zero delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's $5 off and zero delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code LOCKEDONNBA. Don't forget, that's code LOCKEDONNBA for $5 off your first order with DoorDash. Next series up is the Raptors and the Nets. The Nets, they were 5-3 in the bubble. You would expect the Raptors to get this victory in this series, and I don't think anybody would tell you any different. But I think the Nets have got a chance to win a game here. We remember the Magic took the first game off the Raptors last year in that series. I think there's a chance the Nets get one of the first two here, but I reckon overall this series is probably going to be done in 5 games. The Nets, of course, behind Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, Joe Harris, putting up some really strong numbers and playing really well. Took Portland to the brink, but the Raptors have also been really bloody good, and I think Toronto can get this one done pretty comfortably. It's a big margin, the spread here, 10 points in favor of the Raptors, and Richie Beno's happy with the total.
2 for 222.
It is 222. Injury-wise, I think we're pretty much got the all clear in this one, which is always a good thing to hear, when you don't have to worry about too many injuries bothering your player selection for DFS purposes, and that's where we sit here. Apart from the guys, of course, that we already know are out, nothing major here. Jamal Crawford, O'Shea Brissett, and Patrick McCaw at point guard. Fred VanVleet, 6,800 on DraftKings. I can't love that anymore. He's going to play a lot of minutes. Kyle Lowry also is, but it's $1,100 extra for Lowry at 7,900. Give me Freddie at 6,800. Chris Chiozza at 3,200. Don't trust that. Tyler Johnson at 45. I think he's a decent enough cash play. Well, Garrett Temple will likely be the starter, but he is listed as a shooting guard, so we'll get to him in a second. Actually, let's get to him now. 4,400 for Temple, who's averaging over 31 points in his last 3 games. I think he's actually a pretty good option here. Now, he has had moments in the past where he's been terrible, but I like the way he's playing at the moment. Joe Harris is at 4,700. Good for cash, really good floor, while Storm and Norman Powell at 4,500 has also got himself back into action with 32 points per game over the last 3. Good low price options there. LeVert, 7,600. He's putting up massive numbers. 54 average over the last 3. I don't think you can have a lineup without him in it, to be honest, because, look, it could be a blowout and maybe they sit him down a little bit, but I think you got to put him in. He's playing at a really high level at this point. Small forward is the Jedi, OG Anunoby.
But what about scarves?
OG.
Balenciaga
Stop,
ones.
OG. You better stop, OG.
And just one more for posterity's sake.
Hello there.
Hello there, indeed. I don't know why I've spent so much time on Anunoby, but at 3,500, maybe he's a tournament guy, but that's about it. Luwawu Cabarrot's at 4,000. He tends to put up the big numbers when the Nets rest players, and he gets some big usage. I wouldn't be falling for that trap in a big way. And then we go on to your big men. Pascal Siakam's at 7,500. Hasn't really unloaded here in the bubble. Hasn't really put up any big numbers or anything like that. At 7,500, I think we can look at him as an okay cash guy, but I'm not falling all over myself for it. Marc Gasol's at 4,300.
Oh, hi, Mark.
They'll be able to push his minutes up a little bit here. His last 3 games against the Nets, 38 points in 28 minutes is a pretty good number, and it is a fantastic matchup for Gasol. So I think he's a tournament guy to look at. Ibaka at 54. Yeah, I'm not as keen there. Well, Jarrett Allen is all the way at 7,000 because he's putting up massive numbers. Now, Gasol is a real problem. Like, that is an issue. But Allen's averaging 43 over the last 5. And at 7,000, that's good value. I think I think the Gasol factor is probably one that we need to take into consideration. While Rowdy Rodion's Kulrook's at 3,800, he gives you 19 or 20 points, which is all right. But where's the upside in it? And I don't really think that that's there for him over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I love Temple at 38. I think Lowry at 73 comes in much stronger than Van Vliet there because those two are pretty similar in price. I think Siakam looks pretty good over there too, while Levert's up to 8,300, and that becomes more risky because if it is a blowout and if the shot doesn't fall, then he won't make that number. And the 7,200 for Jarrett Allen is also probably a little bit riskier to use there too, but still with value. But the Marc Gasol defense is obviously a factor for us. All right. Let's go on to the next game. We're looking at the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics. This series, no Ben Simmons, of course. I think this is going to be a 5-gamer. I think the Celtics get this one in 5 without Simmons. Embiid should be ready to go, like he played in the last seeding game in limited minutes. They're talking about maybe they're going to start the painter Matisse Thybulle. I thought Philadelphia with a fully healthy team was a shot to get to the NBA Finals. I don't think that anymore. I think Boston can roll through this one in 5 games. All right, so let's what else have? Let's talk to FS for this one, of course. Boston 5.5-point favorites. The total 218.5. Romeo Langford is listed as questionable, while Vincent Poirier is probable. They're not going to be in the rotation anyway. Kemba Walker, no minutes restrictions. He's at 6,900.
Giggity!
That's fantastic, as is the value that you got there. I reckon he could be a 38, 40-point type of a player. Alec Burks at 3,900. With Simmons out, Burks is putting up some good usage type games, and Milton also struggling. He can be a 30-point guy here, Burks. So I do like him quite a bit, while Marcus Smart at 62, probably too high, I think, for Marcus. Shake Milton's at 5,100. I don't think anyone could really be positive with Milton after what we've seen so far in the restart, and I'm not going to be the first one to do that. Well, Raul Neto scored pretty well. He's at 3,100. He's averaging 29 over his last 3. I don't fully trust that, especially if they're giving more minutes to Thybulle. Shooting guard Jaylen Brown's at 7,400. He's been really good in the bubble. That is a high price for Brown, considering his lack of peripheral stats usually. I don't mind it, but I reckon we can do better. Joshie Richardson at 5,500. I'm not really sure the value is there. Furkan Korkmaz and Thybulle similarly. At small forward, Jace Tatum's at 8,500. Love that. That's a 40, 45, 50-point one waiting to happen, I think, there for Tates. While Gordie Hayward's at 73. I also like the floor value there in Gordo. Toby Harris at 7,800. That's probably a little bit too high. I think we can do better. And by doing better, that means either Gordon Hayward or Jaylen Brown than Toby there. And then for your big men, Daniel Tice at 5,200. Hasn't had a particularly good record against Joel Embiid, so I wouldn't be rushing to use him. While Embiid's at 10,200. It's pretty high for Embiid. I think they'll be playing him some pretty big minutes. I think he can get to 50. I think he's worth looking at, but there obviously is a risk with him. Al Horford at 72 is just way too high. I have no interest in that sort of price tag for Big Al. Over on FanDuel, Kemba at 6,000 looks like the one for me. Embiid at 85 is also great. I love Jaylen Brown at 6,200. Hayward at 61 looks awesome too, as does Tatum at 83. But a big change there, whereas I think Tatum's a better play on DraftKings. I think Jaylen is the better play over on FanDuel, and Kemba remains probably the best play in this game overall. Last game up, but actually, before we get to the last game, maybe you're getting tired. Maybe you need to go work out from listening to this high-energy podcast. Well, Built Bar are the best-tasting protein bars that you can find. It tastes like a candy bar, but it is a healthy protein bar, perfect for you. 18 flavors. Built Bar was so popular, they sold out. They had to redo everything because everything was flying out the door. 18 flavors, including 6 new ones: caramel brownie, cookies and cream, cherry barcia, lemon almond cheesecake, carrot cake, and apple almond crisp. Plus their 12 originals as well. All bars are covered 100% chocolate, soft and easy to choose. They are great for the health-conscious person, low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and high fiber. Their Cherry Barcia bar, one of the new ones, 17 grams of protein, 130 calories only, with 4 grams of sugar and 4 grams of net carbs. And with a free cooler with purchase, you better get in quick because that is only while supplies last. Go to BuiltBar.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get $10 off your next order. Use promo code LOCKEDON for $10 off at BuiltBar.com. The next game and the last game we're going to take a look at here is the Mavericks and the Clippers. Just got word come through that Montrezl Harrell is upgraded to probable for this one. So it looks like he's going to be ready to go. That's what probable means, of course. So it looks like he's going to be ready to play. I think the Clippers are going to push this one to 6 just because of Doncic and Porzingis, that they'll be out there putting up some big numbers. We don't know the status of Patrick Beverley at this point and Landry Shamet for the Clippers. For Dallas, I think everyone is ready to go in that one. We're going to get big Doncic minutes, big Porzingis minutes, big Finney-Smith minutes, Hardaway, Curry. It's going to be those five getting so much of the playing time on this team. So let's have a look at it from a DFS point of view. The Clippers are 6-point favorites and the total is 229. I don't think Harrell, by the way, is going to play his full minutes straight up. At point guard, Beverly's at 3,400. That's really, really hard to trust, and I wouldn't trust it. While Doncic is at 11,000. I think he gets 55 pretty comfortably here. That's a really good play. While Lou Williams at 6,000 started to get things going at the end of the bubble. That's a good option, especially if Beverly is out. Delon Wright, Reggie Jackson, Trey Burke, really hard to get excited there. Maybe Jackson if Beverly is out, but he has been shitful in the restart. Seth Curry's at 37. He's only a tournament guy to me in case he gets hot. While Timmy Hardaway at 57. When everyone's playing, Hardaway has struggled to put up the big numbers, so I'm not really, in the restart that is, I'm not really keen on him. Marcus Morris at 42. I just hope he doesn't get enough shots to make that a worthwhile play, so let's steer clear. While Paulie George, the Beatle at 81. Really good 40-point option here. And the fun guy, Kawhi Leonard.
I'm a fun guy.
He's at 9,800. I reckon it might be just a little bit over for Kawhi. I'm not sure he pushes that 50-point mark where we need him to get. And Dorian Finney-Smith at 48. Not sure the upside is there, although he did have a 55-point game in the bubble, so maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. For the big men, Porzingis is at 83.
Percentages.
Love that. Absolutely love that Porzingis. He's a 50-point guy most time. Zubac's at 41. The return of Harrell does put a bit of a dampener there on him, so I don't think he's as good a player as he has been. Kleber, Harrell's at 59. Only in a tournament setting would I use him. I just don't think they're going to be ready to get him out there at full run. And then on FanDuel, Seth Curry at 4,000 again, that tournament option. I love Finney-Smith on FanDuel at 41, and 53 for Lou Williams is great. 86 for Porzingis, 93 for Kawhi I really like, and 10-2 for Luka Doncic. Looks like pretty good FanDuel options. That'll do me, guys, for today. Subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on YouTube. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.